Mandatory minicamp is underway, and Baker Mayfield wants to take this offense to the next level. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this WTSP edition of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs. He is Evan Klosky at eKlosky WTSP, where you're your credentialed members of the media covering your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Here with you at least 3 days a week for the month of June, along with the everydayers. And for that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Plenty of reaction from mandatory minicamp coming up because it's finally here. And there's plenty to take away from the first day, including the fact that Hassan Reddick is there, so everyone can breathe a sigh of relief. If you didn't listen to us when we said don't freak out, well, now you especially don't have reason to freak out because Reddick is there, and Baker said he's really fast. But Evan, I don't
think he said that many reallys.
It was implied.
Seems like it was editorializing on your part.
Well, I do want to start with Baker Mayfield. Obviously, the Bucs went above and beyond to make sure that he has everything that he needs to be successful. He's got new weapons. He's got an offensive coordinator that he has a great relationship with. And, of course, Baker spoke after practice on Tuesday about the offense, and he said, quote, if you look at the foundation that we tried to instill last year, we obviously evolved throughout the year and the season. So it's nice for guys to not have to learn it from scratch. There's obviously a few tweaks and things, motions that Grizz wants to get done, which is great. If you're not trying to get better, you're not going to survive. We're doing that right now. For me, it's continuing to over-communicate at the line of scrimmage. That was a big step last year. The responsibility at the line of scrimmage, but take it to the next level. Really take ownership and over-communicate to where if we get a certain pressure or coverage, guys know what I'm going to check to. That's the part I have to continue to try and elevate everybody else around me and take that ownership. End quote. This was the only offense in the playoffs last year that was top 4 in rushing and top 4 in passing offenses. So what do you think it's going to take or what is it going to look like for them to reach the next level?
So the question was, what is the offense to do?
Basically, what do you think it's going to take and what is it going to look like for the offense to reach the next level?
Yeah, I think the one thing that Baker Mayfield talked about as well was the fact that they want to get more explosives. He says that he's not a quote-unquote stat guy, but he does understand the explosives they created were due to a lot of yaks. So everything was kind of underneath. We talked about that all last year, how Liam Cohen was a little dinky and doinky, which – look, I mean, they were very effective. No problem with that. But they certainly want to get more explosives via the vertical game and really push defenses to fear that element. So I think that's going to be something Grizz accounts for. And that's not necessarily sending a bunch of go balls. But if you think to how the Miami Dolphins created explosives with Waddle and Hill with sort of those deep routes, I think you're going to see some more of that, and you have some flexibility there with when everybody's up to full speed. Egbuka, Godwin, Evans, J-Mac. You can, you got some versatility where you can have some underneath stuff and some stuff that runs a little bit deeper. Everybody can work those routes, so I think that will be important. Certainly, Baker Mayfield did not say that he was going to limit his scrambling abilities. My favorite quote from the day was about how he says coaches like to talk this time of year. The entire offseason they're watching film. Having said that, Ira Kaufman, who is a legend here in Tampa, said, "Look, they're just trying to protect you, Baker." And he says, "Well, I'm looking to get wins." So he does recognize that he can't eat as many sacks as he did last year. That was the big thing. Not necessarily peeling off his ability to scramble, but not thinking so much to scramble on every play that you eat a sack because of it. You got to know when to fight the fight. You got to know when to give up and pass it over to the defense if necessary. But yeah, I don't think they have to really reinvent the wheel here. They just got to make sure that teams aren't necessarily all over the stuff that they did last year and make it click a little bit there. So that will be the big emphasis for Tampa Bay moving into the season. Along with, and here's one more tidbit that I noticed. It looks like they are working on snap count religiously, and they did that under Liam Cohen as well. But they have a cadence where it's like a hut. They're trying. They have different ways where they can snap it on the second hut, and I was seeing a lot. I saw Hassan Reddick jump off sides once. I was seeing it really keeps the defensive line honest because you don't know whether they're going to snap it on that first hut, the second hut. You can do a triple. And if you can create that variability in the snap count, then you really can limit the defense flying off the ball when it's snapped. And every millisecond counts in that regard. So that's what we mean by continuity, communication, over-communication, all those things, is that if that is up to speed and exactly where it needs to be, they will be a well-oiled machine, because if you can limit the front four getting off the ball quickly, then you're going to be able to have a lot more success. So seeing that and seeing a couple offsides, that's encouraging, because when I notice that the Buccaneers are doing it, I know that a lot of other teams, when they see them for the first time and play them, they're going to struggle with it as well.
Is this an offense that could be number one in the NFL, you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they were a top 5 unit last year, and they're bringing back everybody. Everybody is back. I don't know if they're getting the respect that they deserve. I know that national pundits all believe in the Buccaneers offense. They see the numbers, not saying that, but I don't think that they're the first team that rolls off the top of anyone's heads when they say most explosive offense in the NFL is. And I would love to test NFL fans of when they get to Buccaneers, and I guarantee you it's a little bit lower than what it should be. But yes, they have the potential to be the number one offense in this league. Not saying they will be, but certainly I don't think that is a crazy statement to make.
Yeah, that kind of echoes a sentiment that I shared on the last episode, talking about Brian Baldinger was there for OTAs, and he said you cannot talk about the top teams that can emerge out of the NFC without talking about the Buccaneers, because if you do that, you're basically lying to yourself. So the Buccaneers will continue to not get the respect they deserve, but that's okay. That's how Jason Light and Baker Mayfield like things.
That's not a problem.
All right. Well, what were Evan's biggest takeaways from his day out at One Buck besides being attacked by bugs? That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. The NBA Finals are tied up at 1 game apiece as the series heads to Indianapolis. The Thunder are still the favorites to win the NBA Finals at -650, while the Pacers are sitting at +480. SGA is the favorite to win the Finals MVP at -550, while while Tyrese Halliburton is at plus 750. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting. The NFL draft is over, but the roster moves and news never stop. Host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, obviously a lot of eyes were on Hassan Reddick today as he made his debut with the Bucs. People were waiting for it. People were nervous. You had mentioned it's Randy Gregory PTSD when he didn't show up to OTAs, but he was there. He was wearing the number 5. He was running around. But outside of that, or maybe even including that, what were some of your biggest takeaways from watching minicamp practice on Tuesday, starting with that defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, well, first off, we were inside the shed, the Glazers shed, because there was rain to start the day before they moved back outside. And the defensive linemen were situated right next to the media. So it was great. We had a great look at that front four immediately. Reddick, Cansey, Vea, Yaya Diaby working on their stuff. I saw a lot of communication. I saw Reddick asking a lot of questions to his teammates, to Charlie Strong as well, who was running the defensive line. So they're definitely trying to figure things out. More so, Reddick has to get caught up to speed. He's a new guy, and he hasn't been here for the voluntary stuff. He's a veteran, so it's not going to take him a long time to pick up these things. He's not a rookie, right? Like, you can say one or two things to him, and it's going to be like, okay, I got it. So that's not a problem, but you can see the communication starting. We saw Big Des Watson also shift in there, and that was great to see. Looks like Christian Izien was out there. He didn't practice, but he was out there in his uniform, and he did post on Twitter that he's, with a Cam Newton gif saying, "I'm back." So it looks like maybe he's been cleared, which is really great to hear, because I think Izien's a little bit underrated. Not saying that he'll necessarily start. Jacob Parrish is a guy who's getting amazing praise. He was certainly out there with the ones for a good portion of practice. Benjamin Morrison's another guy who's been getting praise. But Izien, he's a perfect kind of – he's a Todd Bowles DB, man. He can play safety. He can play nickel. He can do a lot of things, and that's the depth that you need when you want to make a Super Bowl run. Guys like Christian Izien. So starter, no starter, I don't care. I mean, last year he wasn't a starter, and it took about, 2 quarters before he played the entire year before getting hurt himself in Dallas. So he looks good. And, I mean, for the most part, there's only so much that we can deduce. I really do understand the emphasis for turnovers. Bryce Hall had a pick 6 off a dropped catch from who was it? I'll think of it later. But Rakim Jarrett. Rakim Jarrett dropped it. Bryce Hall tipped it to himself. That was a pick 6. Again, he's good depth at the cornerback position. Won't be a starter. Might not even be the third string guy, but that goes to show you that him maybe even being cornerback 4 is pretty darn good. But they're just all over it, man. Turnovers. Todd Bowles is hearkening on it. The DBs are all meeting together, safeties and corners. Everybody that we talked to on that side of the ball, the DB said that we are happy with that. We think that's going to only help us. Tyke Smith, I thought had a really good day. Jalen McMillan looked to have a touchdown in the end zone. He smacked it out of his hands right as he was falling down. Tyke was also doing, I saw him make a really nice play in a run stuff. So he's also somebody who believes that, injuries from last year kind of affected his play towards the middle end of the year, and he wasn't the same guy. But overall, we didn't see Levante David out there. And so Anthony Walker was in there with Servassier Dennis. But the defense looked good. I thought when they were doing red zone stuff, the Bucs were a little bit in hell there, which the Bucs typically the past couple of years have had stingy red zone defense. Certainly 2 years ago, they were one of the best. And last year they weren't too shabby as well. But yeah, it felt like, look, they didn't win every red zone opportunity and possession, but it felt like the defense was won the red zone period with the amount of stops they were getting. So I'm coming around on this defense. I'm not saying they're going to be a top 5 unit, but I think that we're probably crossing into the territory of where the Buccaneers defense is going to be underrated based on how bad they were last year. I think everyone's going to say, man, this defense sucks. We watched them. Bowles is going to tinker. We know that. Hassan Reddick, I don't think people are valuing his addition enough. I don't think he's going to be this guy that we saw with the Jets. I think he will be more of the guy we saw with the Eagles. And hopefully the linebackers stay healthy. I still have my questions, but if Servase and Levante have 17 games where they're on the field, I have no qualms with that. And Anthony Walker also is a good depth piece as well. So I'm starting to like him. I might eat these words come November, but they look like a group that's going to be a lot better than what we saw last season. And I know that's not a high bar, but if you have a group that improves 10 spots in total defense with one of the best offenses in the league, now we're talking about a Super Bowl contender. Now you got to end up in a top 10 in both categories to typically be a Super Bowl winning team. In the Super Bowl, there are exceptions, but that's typically what you want to do, be top 10 in both. And so that will be the question. Can the Bucs get into the top 10, or are they more of an average defense? Are they a top 15 defense? That remains to be seen. I need to see a lot more in training camp and with them out of the T-shirt and shorts. But I will let Bucs fans know, be a little bit optimistic that the defense is going to be better this season.
Well, yeah, I mean, the official stance of the Locked On Bucs everydayers has been cautiously optimistic. Yeah. So, we're still trending in the right direction. And then real quick, Evan, we're seeing Grizz start to do some of these call-up periods. How are things starting to look from that aspect on the offensive side of the ball with him starting to get a feel for the play calling?
Yeah, tough for me to fully evaluate it right now. As I said, the red zone, it felt like the defense won that. And again, I don't really know how to evaluate that in one practice, and also with how good the Buccaneers defense is. And typically defenses usually have more of an advantage when you're playing against each other all the time. Having said that, it felt like they were getting a lot of completions. I love how he kind of falls under the same belief of Liam Cohen of making the defense defend every blade of grass, a lot of east-west, north-south. We did see some vertical shots in there. So, I don't no opinion quite yet. I need to see more of the call-up periods from Grizz before I can truly say if this is a trend or not.
All right. Well, lots of buzz around the rookies. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. Goodbye to sticky notes, scribbled plans on the fridge, and overlapping calendar invites. The Skylight calendar is here to bring clarity to the chaos and help families stay organized without the stress. The sleek digital display syncs with your existing calendars, Google, Apple, Outlook, and more, making it simple to track appointments, practices, dinners, and reminders all in one easy-to-see place. With two teenage boys going in two different directions at all times with their individual activities and jobs, it gets real easy for us to lose track of their schedules as well as our own. So seeing everything laid out perfectly, color-coded by person for the week on a 15-inch HD screen helps us keep track of everything and stay on time. Right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/NFL. Go to skylightcal.com/NFL for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/NFL. Wrapping things up here on the WTSP edition of Locked On Bucs. We had Baker Mayfield praising Egbuka, talking about not just how physically talented he is, but Baker called him cerebral for how smart he is, how quickly he is taken to the offense. We have Tyke Smith saying that Benjamin Morrison has already been a standout player. Parrish has been really good. On the flip side, we also had Todd Bowles talk about Parrish dropping an interception and how he was going to, quote unquote, hear about it after practice, stressing, got to take the ball away. He said, Bowles has said, we've been breaking up passes. We gotta catch them ourselves. But Evan, being out there, what were kind of your impressions of this rookie class and who kind of stood out to you the most?
Emeka Egbuka continues to be someone that we talk about, and we should. He's a first-round pick. It'd be a problem if we didn't. It is becoming, at least the vibe is, the way that I feel it, Godwin's going to be eased into, and I think I mentioned this last week or 2 weeks ago, Godwin will be eased into the wide receiver role coming off of that injury. You draft Emeka Egbuka, you don't have to rush Godwin back. Thinking that Godwin doesn't get his full lion's share of reps like he was at the peak of his dominance in 2024, that leads me to believe Egbuka is going to get a lot of time in the slot to at least start the year. And we haven't even seen the fundamental stuff from Egbuka yet in practice, like how good of a blocker he is in the run game. You can only do so much in T-shirts and shorts. But I think that Egbuka is just a really damn good football player, which we knew when he was drafted. Catches the ball. He's been getting a lot of targets from Baker. He has been finding his way to get open. Reliable. Knows how to do his job. I think that fans are going to quickly fall in love with Egbuka, which is what I've been saying since day one. Even though they took a quote-unquote luxury pick, fans were more annoyed about not going defense first. And eventually they'll come around and say, you know what? Egbuka's pretty damn good. I'm happy we got him. So that's one. Two, it feels like Jacob Parrish is going to be a key player on this defense from day one. Nickel, maybe he gets some outside reps. Bowles is saying that. It seems like he's a nickel. And I think that it's probably, Izzian's going to push him, but it seems like Parrish might have the inside track to be the starter day one at that nickel position. We'll see what happens. But he looks good. He, again, looks like a pro, looks like he looks very comfortable out there. He dropped an interception. He had a bunch during the rookie, or he had a couple at least during the rookie minicamp portion. And he continues to be in the right spot to have those opportunities. So we like that. Morrison, he's got a battle with really Jamel Dean. Zion McCollum should safely have his job. And in my opinion, Jamel Dean safely has his job. Dean's problem isn't typically his play, though he cannot catch a football. Very rarely does he get the interceptions. But he's a really darn good cornerback, especially kind of when you can do a little bit more press coverage versus having him slink off into zone. But it's the injury stuff with Jamel that is the problem, not really the performance per se. And it would probably behoove Morrison to at least sit out a handful of games as the number 3 corner, watch from afar, and he's going to be inserted into a game at some point. He's going to be the next man up. But I don't know if he'll be the starter out of the gates. But, he looks good. Last week he made a heck of a play against Egbuka, a scary play as well, as Egbuka fell down pretty hard. But I think that we'll look back and say him in the second round was a steal, considering the injury concerns. I get it, but he looks like he's a full go and healthy, and he's also looked the part. He is a big dude for a cornerback, especially on the outside. So I don't know. I mean, the rookie class looks pretty good at the top there. David Walker didn't practice. I guess he's nursing a small thing. Nothing to be too concerned about, but he wasn't out there. I'll have to see more David Walker. Have to see more Tez, though I do believe he'll probably win that punt return job. But have to see more of Tez. And is there one other rookie I'm forgetting? 3, 4.
Elijah Roberts, Tez Johnson.
Elijah Roberts. Yeah, I mean, his job is just really tough to really deduce based on t-shirts and shorts. So that it would be the same thing for like offensive linemen, right? If they drafted an lineman, I can't tell you what they're doing. There's no contact. So we'll circle back to him and what he can and what he'll be able to do.
Yeah, well, it's something that I talked about on the show, I don't know, a week or so ago, that Jacob Parrish has a much better track to be a week 1 starter based on the position that he's going to play compared to Benjamin Morrison. Morrison has to overcome Dean or McCollum, 2 entrenched starters, in order to crack the starting lineup, whereas, Parrish, Izzian, like you said, Izzian's going to push him. There's no doubt about it. But Izzian's also a guy that is kind of suited to be. Last year, Todd Bowles talked a lot about Swiss Army knives. Izzian plays that role, I think, a little bit better, which gives Parrish a more clear lane to that starting job. But yeah, like you said, I mean, what the over-under's what, 1.5 games before Dean is coming off the field with an injury. So Morrison's going to get a shot, but he's also a guy that he doesn't want to have to wait for that. He's going to go out there and really try to steal one of those guys' jobs.
And I don't want to say, like, Zion seems pretty safe to me. I'd still think that Dean will win the job, but certainly Bowles is a proponent that if you are the better player, you're going to play. And certainly I don't feel like Bowles owes or feels like he owes Dean anything. He's going to have to work for that job. I mean, Zion's going to have to do it too if for some reason he falls off, a cliff. But I don't foresee that. I'm just saying that Morrison will at least – we can maybe make this a Baker Kyle Trask sort of battle. It's a battle.
Okay.
There's a clear favorite, but there's a battle there. And if Morrison can, what Dean has to do to keep his job is not as hard as Morrison is going to have to do to prove that he should overstep Dean. And that was Trask over Mayfield. Mayfield's here. Trask is down here. And Trask is going to have to fill that void, then go over him. Whereas, Baker can just keep raising that bar. Dean can just keep raising that bar. So that's how I would maybe compare it. But, yeah, you bring up like Parrish and Izzian and all that stuff because it's a little bit like the Tampa Bay Rays with how Bowles likes to run that defense, right? A lot of positional versatility. So let's say Jacob Parrish isn't ready to step into that nickel role right away. Well, Tyke, you go back to nickel. Izzian goes to safety. Antoine stays there. And then, on certain plays, Izzian comes off the field. Tyke can move back to safety. And, in third down packages, whatever it might be, you can do some of that stuff to really hide Parrish if he's not progressing fast enough. I don't foresee that for him. He looks the part. But that's what I mean by, like, Izzian pushing and how, Tyke's still kind of doing nickel stuff. And, That's why I'm a little bit more optimistic of the Bucs defense this year. I just don't think they're going to be the same stale, stagnant group that we saw last year, where you lined them up, they looked the same, drop back. It was just, hey, just don't gash us all at once. Very much, I think we're going to see Bowles be aggressive again, because I feel like he feels he has the personnel to do it now. And last year, due to a lot of injuries, nothing against a lot of players, a lot of injuries, a lot of guys had to step up who were not ready for those roles. Bowles had to default to a oh crap plan. I'm not going to put someone on an island. Let me protect everybody. And as much as this sucks, it will help us win games. And in the big picture, it did. In the little picture, it was a big reason why the defense was not good statistically, and certainly got burnt to smithereens against the Commanders there in that playoff game, even if it was not so much in the point total, certainly in the yards, the first downs given up, all those things, moving the chains. The red zone was good. Right. I'll give them that.
Evan, what do we have going on over at 10 Tampa Bay, 10tampabay.com, and the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app?
Yeah, as always, 10 Tampa Bay Plus. Check out the Ultimate Florida Sports Show. Again, this week, next week, certainly going to be talking about the Buccaneers as well as Jags, Dolphins, all that stuff with my good friend Chris Porter there in Jacksonville. So you can find that on the 10 Tampa Bay Plus streaming app. Head to 10tampabay.com. I wrote an article, 1,500 words, about what the Rays could do with Ha-Seong Kim returning. Who is going to be the odd man out there? Will they, who's going to get demoted or DFA'd? I go through all the options I think that are on the table. So good stuff there on 10tampabay.com, 10 Tampa Bay Plus, and then, of course, you can find me on 10 Tampa Bay, 6 and 11 o'clock Monday through Friday. David Shealy in the saddle on the weekends.
All right, that is going to do it for this episode. Please check out everything Evan is doing on 10 Tampa Bay, 10tampabay.com, and the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app. Make sure you're following everything on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at @JYarcho_Bucs, at eCloskey WTSP. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube with the notifications turned on, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. Become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. I want to thank you so much for joining us right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.